A brief overview of the PSA by Rebecca Grace. Writing is a rhetorical problem, meaning it's necessary to choose the most ideal way to communicate my information. PSA stands for Problem Solving Approach. As a writer, I use it to plan each written piece. This method consists of 5 steps: planning, researching, drafting, reviewing, and distributing. Planning. First, I plan how I'm going to tackle the writing. Which media will I use to display my writing? Who's my target audience? Researching. Then I research my target audience as well as different styles of writing if it's necessary. And I say this because in this class, I know the style of writing needed because our professor tells us in each assignment. Drafting. Next, I begin drafting my first written piece. I like to use a free-flow writing approach, and then I finally write my draft for submission. This process is the longest one because it requires having others to review my written piece, which brings me to the next part of the PSA. Reviewing. Reviewing consists of proofreading and editing. This process is lengthy too, and not my favorite part of the PSA, but a necessary one. When I create paid writing pieces, I have trusted friends in the journalism field review my work for typos. I also leave a day after work to review my work with fresh eyes. Distributing. Distribution is the next, and the final step of the PSA. This is where I share my final version with my intended audience. How you use the PSA to develop and distribute your document. My favorite writing assignment was creating a web page. The PSA model was used to develop it. First, I planned how and when I should write it, and when I would write it. Since I had ample time, I began making notes about various subject matters and decided on nomadic travel for beginners. Then I researched my audience. The audience I wanted to reach would be new to this form of lifestyle and need colorful anecdotes along with vivid photographs to inspire them to think outside of the box. I decided on WordPress because I like the page templates and it was very user-friendly. Third, I drafted the content on Microsoft Word for each section and copied and pasted each section onto the web page. I left about 4 to 5 hours after adding the content to review how it looked and to see if it flowed well. I asked a friend, who happens to be a professional writer, to review my web page. I also added my web page to our peer review group so my fellow students could review it and add feedback. Finally, I distributed the web page to my professor via our class Dropbox. What was successful about using the PSA? It was a success because I had a great system to address every aspect of the creation process. Simply following the steps in a cohesive order helped me feel less overwhelmed. Lessons learned about myself as a writer. I learned that I cannot write at will. I must be in the mood to do so, which is a fault of most unsuccessful writers. I want to be able to write on a regular schedule. This obviously requires discipline, which is something I sadly lack. Even though I have made copywriting and blog writing into a semi-profitable business. Lessons learned about effective communication. My biggest lesson learned about communicating effectively is knowing your target audience. Whether they're punk rockers, backpackers, lawyers, or whatever. It's impossible to write blindly. I mean, you must know who you're writing for. It also takes time management, which is something I'm always working on. I can't predict when the internet will be down in the village, but I can begin writing assignments early enough to avoid this pitfall.